All right, MySQL learners. So in this session, we're going to talk about clustered indexes. So so clustered index is not a different index type, as in like you can, directly create a clustered index yourself. So it is a type of index uh, that MySQL kind of maintains in the behind the scenes actually. So and also your table data, the data that you insert into your tables or load into your tables, are maintained in these uh, indexes only. What I mean by that is, so let's say this is a B tree index, right? So this is a B tree index. So you have MySQL creating this B tree index as you load data into these tables, and then in the leaf nodes, what you have is actually the data that you're loading into these tables, right? The clustering, the sorting is based on the primary key that you define on in this table actually. So if you don't define a primary key, MySQL will automatically pick up a non-nullable index key. What that means is, so let's say that in fact, actually, let's jump straight into the example that I have prepared for you guys. So so this is my MySQL workbench, and I'll show you this table definition. So this is called products underscore one, and it's basically a products table that is typically used in a e-commerce store. And if you've been following my lessons, this is what I've been using. I just changed the name of the table for demonstrating this concept, this clustered index concept. So you have all these like columns, and I'm defining a primary key. Okay, so let's just start by, I'm just going to switch to a database called ecom store, or schema called ecom store. I'm going to drop, these tables if they exist already by any chance. Um, so the table doesn't exist, which is okay. So I'm going to create this table which I just talked about called products, and then this table has primary key uh, primary key as product ID. So product ID is sort of like an integer column. So this is an auto increment, right? So you don't even have to provide a value for this column actually when you load the data. So you can just put all this information and load it, and then we are good. MySQL will automatically increment the value of this column actually. So, and then of course, like I said, like there is a ISBN column which is over here. It's sort of like book ISBN information. If you are, if you remember your school days, like there is this ISBN number attached with any book, so something like that. So some kind of ISBN alphanumeric number. So I'm going to call that like a unique key or a unique constraint. And let's go ahead and create this table and this constraint. So that was successfully created, and I'm going to create a procedure which I can use to kind of like populate this table, right? So don't worry about the details of this procedure. This is something that I wrote to populate this table, um, and then that is successfully created. And change the delimiter back to a semicolon, and then I'm going to call this procedure, and which is going to throw some warnings, which is okay with me, as long as the data gets populated, I'm fine. So it's going to probably generate some, load some 6,000 plus rows into this table. So we'll see how much we get. This is awesome. So it's actually loading a lot of data. It seems to be done. So let's go ahead and commit the data. And now actually I'm going to select the data in this table, right? Um, just select all the data, and you will see that the data by default, or the data is actually sorted based on the primary key, which is product ID. And you can see, I haven't like specified any ordering. So this is this is the default ordering of data, right? And so basically your table data is sorted based on your clustered index, which is primary key over here, because you have the primary key in the table actually, right? So now the next thing is actually I'm going to create a similar table, which is uh, which I'm going to call it products 2, but in this case I'm going to basically not define a primary key. I'm still going to have a unique key called, again, the same thing. It's ISBN. It's a unique key, and let's just give it a different name, just so we have kind of like we have different names for different constraints. So let's actually go ahead and create this table. And so this table is created. I'm going to copy the data from the first table that, where I loaded a lot of data. So I'm going to copy the data from that table into this table, right? So just very simple. And then I'm going to commit, right? So that's about 6455 number of rows inserted into this table. And I'm going to select all the rows from this table, and you can see that now the data is not sorted by product ID, rather it is sorted by this ISBN. It is sorting based on first character first, and then initially the first and second characters are the same, then 01, 02, and that keeps going, 05, and then 09, 0A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, and then I think after the zeros you see one. So it is basically sorting data based on ISBN. And why ISBN? Because of the absence of primary key, it's going to choose this ISBN column as it's going to choose this non-nullable unique index key, which is based on ISBN column, right? So it's sorting based on this. But this is actually a terrible idea, because if you're generating random alphanumeric string for ISBN, then you're not going to be generating the string in sort of like an ascending order or in any type of order actually. So in that case, actually, when you're inserting data into this table, this B tree is going to be created behind the scenes, and then MySQL, like whatever program is creating or maintaining this data structure behind the scenes, has to work really hard to manage this B tree index actually, right? That's why this is a terrible idea to have like a UUID or some kind of alphanumeric string as a primary key actually. Or in the absence of primary key, well, MySQL is going to use this key for clustering, and again, it is very bad. So keep that in mind when you're creating tables actually, right? So finally, what I'm going to do is create another table uh, called products 3, and before that I'm going to show you the output of this query, which is basically going to come up empty, or no rows returned. All I'm doing is actually checking whether this index, the index with name gen clust index, is there in this database actually, and then I'm checking the InnoDB tables and information schema. I'm joining InnoDB tables and InnoDB indexes, and I'm checking whether this index indeed exists, right? So it doesn't exist, which is why uh, this query returned no rows. And I'm going to create this table, and this time I'm not even going to create a unique key, and I'm going to make all these columns as like nullable columns, So I just want to show you what happens when you have a scenario where you're creating a table with all nullable columns and no primary key index, no unique not nullable index, and and then I'm going to insert data into this table. Again, 6400 plus rows inserted, commit, and then I'm going to select from this product 3 table right now. And when the data comes up, you can see that there is still some ordering that's happening. And we don't have any of these options, primary key or a not nullable unique key available. Then how is MySQL able to sort data? What is it using? So it actually uses a hidden key, actually, right? A hidden primary key. So if you run the same query again, this query, you can see that this index has been created on products 3 table, which is maintained internally by MySQL for just the purpose of clustering this table, actually. Okay, so that's a lot of information. I hope you found this useful, and I will see you guys in my next video.